From the crest of a windswept hill, I gaze upon a colossal ark, half-built, rising improbably from the cracked, sun-scorched desert. In the distance, the sky blazes with lightning, each bolt a divine warning of wrath approaching. Who are the women aboard that vessel? They are the wives of Noah, not mere shadows trailing their renowned husband, but vibrant witnesses to an untold journey of faith. In the gloom of mockery and fear, they stand resolute, not because they are fearless, but because they choose to trust in something greater than reason. They are mothers, keepers of hope amid the tempest of destruction. Today, you step into their sacred story, a tale of courage, redemption, and faith rising above divine fury. Are you ready? At the foot of Mount Ararat, where the earth cracks under relentless sun, where dry winds whip red dust and the whispers of countless generations, of family lives in astonishing silence. Not far from the clamor of a contentious town stands the humble home of Noah and Naamah, a modest haven that seems ordinary, yet harbors an extraordinary mission about to unfold. Naamah, a woman scarcely mentioned in the Bible, is the quiet center amid the storm of fate. She is no prophet, no public preacher, yet in her small, deliberate acts, she roots faith into every detail of family life. From hands patiently preparing simple meals to her steady gaze watching her children, each gesture is a silent affirmation of trust in a sovereign watching a world rotting in its own darkness. The world sees Noah, the man who heard heaven's call. Few notice that behind him stands a wife who didn't hear those words with her ears, but felt them in her soul. When Noah began building the massive ark in the parched desert, she asked little. But at night, as silence cloaked their clay home, she often woke from dreams of water, visions of cold floods sweeping away villages, of tiny hands reaching in vain. These were not mere nightmares, but warnings seeping into her heart. Something vast, heavy, irreversible was coming. Naamah didn't stand before crowds to proclaim her faith. She chose a quiet, steadfast life, and through every breath, every embrace, every whispered prayer, she kept the fire burning for her household, a fire of love, hope, and a faith so true it needed no words. Noah's 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth, had grown into men. Over time, 3 young women joined the family, 3 daughters-in-law, each carrying a distinct inner world, each facing her own test of faith in her own way. Ada, wife of the eldest, exudes strength but wrestles inwardly. Raised in a learned family that prized reason, she finds the idea of a great flood absurd, like a fable for children. Her deepest fear isn't the water, but leaving her parents, who scoff at the ark and refuse to board. Torn between loyalty to her roots and a reality shaking her beliefs, she stands at a crossroads. Zillah, the second wife, is introspective, reserved. She never argues, not for lack of conviction, but because her faith speaks in silence. Zillah prays, not in temples or before crowds, but alone under trees, by streams, or in the dark. To her, God's voice isn't thunder, but a breeze brushing her collar, a faint light through a door's crack, a timely drop of water. She doesn't know if she can change anything, but she believes listening, just listening, is part of her calling. Lastly, to Tubal, the youngest daughter-in-law, never imagined abandoning her familiar life. Impulsive and free-spirited, she chafes at rules. She once challenged Noah, why not build the ark by a river? Why here in the desert? Unsatisfied by his silence, she fumed. Tubal loves her village, her friends, the harvest festivals. To her, leaving everything for a giant wooden ship is madness. Yet deep within, she senses a shift, like the earth trembling when the wind changes. As the ark took shape, its wooden frame rising defiantly against the sky, the villagers noticed. First came curious glances, then skeptical sneers, mockery, and finally rage. "Madness," they cried. "Who believes in a flood from the heavens?" While Noah worked tirelessly, heedless of gossip, it was the women who bore the first scrutiny. At the market, they faced scorn. Fetching water, they heard whispers, yet they didn't retort. None stood to argue or prove their case. For in their hearts, a greater question lingered unanswered. Are we doing the right thing? Will this faith truly save our family from something terrible? Thus each woman, Nama, Ada, Zillah, and Tubal, began a personal journey of faith. A journey not sparked by miracles, but by doubt. Not born in light, but in darkness. Yet in those first steps, quiet, trembling, but resolute, they laid the foundation for a rescue that would be retold for ages. From afar, the ark looms like a massive shadow piercing the sky, straddling the line between faith and madness. It grows daily in the barren land, amid the thud of hammers and the steady rhythm of wood being shaped, like the heartbeat of a mission no one yet comprehends. And then, the villagers' silence begins to crack. At first, there are glances, then laughter. Soon, mocking shouts, finally rage. A rage born not of understanding, but of fear. Fear that if the ark is real, everything they've believed is a lie. Leading them is Barak, a once respected chief, not for kindness, but for his iron fist and uncompromising ways. To him, Noah's Ark isn't just an oddity, it's a wooden indictment, a silent accusation that the world has gone astray. And Barak will not be judged. He rallies the villagers, his words igniting their blood. We don't need a madman building ships on sand. Does he think he's better than us? That he's chosen while we're left behind? The crowd, already simmering with unease, doubt, and wounded pride, erupts. They come in waves, circling the ark like wolves around prey they cannot fathom. They shout, hurl stones, and finally deface it. Scrawled curses and vile words mar the ship's sides. Not to destroy, but to deny the faith it represents. To erase any hint of the divine. Naamah sees it all. She has no weapons, no grand defenses. Only a small frame, a heart pounding fiercely, and eyes that refuse to falter. She stands at the ark's bow, amid the crowd's fury, not as a hero, but as a mother shielding her home, guarding what she knows is true. She doesn't shout, yet her presence is a lamp in the night, small but unyielding. That night in their dark room, as the clamor fades into the wind, Naamah dreams again. Children, ones she once cradled, whose tears she wiped, whose fears she soothed, are swept away by water. Their faces blur, their hands flail in despair. Then through the cave, a light pierces the fluid, cutting through darkness, and a voiceless whisper, like a lullaby, soothes. Hold fast. Elsewhere, Ada fights her own battle, not with villagers, but with her bloodline. Her parents, respected and learned in a nearby village, are adamant. Noah's Ark is lunacy, a betrayal of God, not obedience. When Noah invites them aboard, they refuse, without hesitation or empathy. To them, their daughter has been ensnared by fanaticism. Caught between filial duty and budding faith, Ada feels her heart torn in two. Zillah, gentle and quiet, avoids such disputes. But she sees the starving, abandoned children wandering in these chaotic times. No one notices them except her. So, in silence, Zillah secretly brings bread and water, tucked beneath her cloak, to the children in the shadows. No one knows, no one praises her. But she knows, and she believes God does too. Tubal, the youngest daughter-in-law, is tugged by a different force, Barak's hollow promises. He doesn't threaten her, he entices. A comfortable life. No ark, no ridicule, no need to trust in something vague. All she must do is leave Noah's family. It's a practical, tempting offer for a young woman like her, who has never sacrificed for faith. Then comes the breaking point. Barak, no longer just angry, decides to act. One night he leads him up, torches in hand, to burn the ark. Flames leap swiftly, their golden glow searing Naama's eyes as she stands alone, unarmed, unarmored, with only a prayer in her heart. The wind stirs, at first a breeze, then a gale. Not a natural wind, but something deeper. It sweeps through the flames, fanning them higher, then snuffs them out, as if an invisible hand descends. White smoke rises, enveloping the mob, and they, once ferocious, panic, fleeing in nameless dread. Naama kneels, hands gripping dust, eyes lifted to the black sky. She doesn't weep for the ark's salvation. She weeps because she knows God is there, not silent, not distant, but acting step by step, through wind, through fire, through the fragile faith in her heart. From the ashes of the fire, a new flame kindled in Naama's heart. The next morning she stepped from her tent, her eyes still gilded with the glow of smoke and dust, and called her 3 daughters-in-law to gather beneath the ark's looming frame. In the shadow of its massive timbers, she shared her dream of rising waters, frail hands reaching through towering waves, and a sudden light piercing the dark. Her voice was soft but resolute. God had sent the wind to shield them, a reminder that faith is never in vain. No one spoke, no one interrupted. They listened, letting Naama's quiet prayers weave through the dawn's breath. As hope and resolve mingled in the air, Zillah was the first to rise, her eyes blazed with compassion for the angels yet to grow. She proposed a daring plan to rescue the village's abandoned children and bring them aboard. If the ark's planks stood for faith, mercy would be their sacred task. Despite the risk of the villagers' wrath returning, Zillah said softly, "Mercy too is a mission." Her words ringing like a bell in the wilderness, silencing even the hardest hearts with the challenge of her compassion. Ada, the eldest daughter-in-law, sighed. She thought of her parents beyond Ararat's slopes, who once cradled her, who planned her a safe life. Last night they rejected every plea to board the ark, calling it superstition. Ada knew choosing faith meant severing ties with her blood family, but she lifted her chin, met Naama's trusting gaze, and felt a new strength surge within. With a faint smile, she nodded. There was no turning back. She was no longer just Noah's daughter-in-law, but a guardian of the family's faith. Her hand grazed the plank beside her, and in that moment, the calluses on her palms seemed to awaken, ready to help build the ark. Tubal, still hesitant, still skeptical of a prayer's power in the dark, had doubted. If God truly intervened, why let villagers torch the ark? Why let waters rise? But seeing the gentle light bathe the ship last night, not dazzling but soft as morning dew, Tubal sensed a secret unfolding. She knelt beside Naima and Zillah, eyes closed, letting prayer flow freely. In that fleeting moment, she knew she no longer sought Barak's counsel, his promises of safety through betrayal. Instead, she heard a deeper voice, the Most High calling her to stand firm and trust the unseen but real. In the days that followed, the family plunged into new work. Under Ada's hands, planks sealed gaps, the ark's form sharpening. Zillah not only cared for orphan children but learned to mend sailcloth, quietly reminding all, though storms come, we'll have shelter. Tubal spent afternoons by the ark's steps, praying for peace with each hammer strike, each nail driven into wood. And Naama, a steadfast lighthouse, never ceased encouraging each one, declaring, every drop of sweat is a mark of faith. One night as they gathered under the ark's unfinished dome, distant stars twinkled through its gaps. They raised a prayer together. The silence was profound, filled only by soft breaths and the wind's whisper. Suddenly, a gentle light like mist cloaked the ark, not brilliant like lanterns, but tender as dawn, greeting a new day. Their hearts stilled, and in the quiet, they felt an answer. God was present, endorsing their mission. But Barak, who once hurled torches to burn their faith, wouldn't relent. Believing spiritual strength could shatter wood, he devised a new plan, rallying men with swords and spears for an armed assault. When the glint of blades flashed under the harsh sun, the air grew heavier than ever. In the dark of night, with only a candle's flicker in her tent, Naama stepped out, her worn dress brushing the ground, and walked toward the silent ridge where Barak camped. No one knew what she carried, no weapon, no guard, only a mother's courage. She tapped lightly on his makeshift door. When Barak peered out, she spoke one sentence. "Let the ark stand. Let our faith live." Her voice didn't stir the wind, but it carved itself into the Iron Man's mind. Barak laughed, a cold, cutting sound, as if her plea were a cricket's chirp in the desert. He didn't waver, dismissing her with a wave, asserting his dominion. Naama returned through the cold night. She didn't carry despair, but something else, a fiercer flame. She thought of her dream, the soft light on the ark, the whisper to hold fast. She understood the greatest trial wasn't swords or torches, but keeping faith's flame alive. Entering the tent, she gently touched each daughter-in-law's shoulder and said, "If he won't yield, we must stand stronger." Beneath a star-filled sky, the three daughters-in-law clasped hands, seeing in each other's eyes a new resolve. They spoke little, letting the small fire by the coals dance, letting faith's song resound in their hearts. The journey wasn't over. It was just beginning. They knew storms lay ahead, but they were ready to face them, not just for the ark, but against their own fears and doubts. Dark clouds churned across the horizon, shrouding Ararat's peak like a heavy gray veil. An eerie silence gripped the air, broken only by the wind's howl through rocky crevices, carrying the damp scent of an impending storm. Each heart in Noah's family pounded as the first lightning bolts tore the sky, illuminating the massive wooden ark, steadfast before nature's and humanity's wrath. Barak emerged with a clamor, a tempest of judgment. Torches flickered in the dark, swords gleamed with menace, and shouts rang out. "Destroy the madman's ship! Crush this deluded hope!" They came not to reason, but with blades and furious glares ready to topple anything in their path. Noah, his silver hair streaked with dust, slammed the ark's thick wooden doors shut. Each thud of the bolts echoed like a hammer driving nails, affirming unyielding resolve. The family, Naamah, Shem, Ham, Japheth, and their wives Ada, Zillah, Tubal, stood in a line behind the doors, hearts like stone, braced for the storm. But the greatest trial wasn't the wind or swords. It was humanity's searing condemnation. Amid the chaos, Naamah closed her eyes, knees touching the damp earth. She didn't weep. Her tears had already been thrown over meals and dreams past. Now she prayed with a faith forged through months of hardship, tempered by patient silence and quiet sacrifice. She pleaded not for herself, but for all who trusted in God. As thunder roared, she whispered, "Lord, let the rain fall, grant justice. Let this ark endure as a sign of your mercy." And then the heavens broke. The first drops fell, not gentle spring rain, but a furious deluge, as if to shatter human rage. The downpour pummeled the sword-wielding mob, not merely rain, but justice unstoppable and thunderous. The crowd recoiled in terror. Those who moments ago believed they held power over life and death now trampled each other to flee. Soaked armor sagged, hair streamed in the flood, and they saw their smallness before the relentless rain. In the tumult, Ada didn't stand idle. She rushed to the ark's ramp, calling the animals they'd nurtured and trained. Her eyes blazed like torches in the night, and though drenched, her steps were sure. She led pairs of gazelles, young deer still wild, onto the deck. What seemed chaotic became fluid, as if, amid the storm, she painted a vivid tableau of courage and care. Zillah clutched the orphan children she'd saved, their young faces trembling at the thunder. In her arms, they found refuge. She whispered comfort, then softly sang ancient hymns, each note rising above the howling wind like a lullaby for troubled souls. Her voice, faint in the rain, held uncanny power, calming the hearts of adults and children alike, easing their fear. Tubal, once doubtful, stayed by Noah's side. Gripping her husband's hand, she helped seal the final door, shutting out the crumbling world beyond. In that moment, she felt faith's pulse, strong as the rain pouring down. Closing the door wasn't just protection, it was a declaration of living by faith, even at the cost of facing human wrath. Outside, water rose swiftly. The old wooden ramp touched the flood, then the deck. From a small window in the main hold, Naamah watched silently. She saw the faces of neighbors, old friends, those who mocked her swept away in the torrent. Her heart ached, not with triumph, but with sorrow for faith's steep price. Yesterday's warmth could become today's punishment. She wiped a tear, silently praying for those souls' forgiveness. As the ark swayed in the surging waves, the sky cracked open. A gentle beam pierced the clouds, warming Naamah's heart. It wasn't blinding, but soft, like an embracing hand. She closed her eyes, hearing no clear sound, but deep within a voice echoed, "I have seen your faith." The whisper resounded not just in the air, but in her very being. The ark steadied, gliding calmly through the raging waters. Everything fell into a miraculous order. as if an unseen hand had tied an invisible tether to the wooden vessel amid the stormy sea. Moments later, the tempest eased. Thunder faded to distant growls. Rain softened to pure, steady drops. The ark floated in the vast waters, unshaken. No one spoke. Their exchanged glances carried a new, fiercer faith. Ada clutched her chest, breathing the cool air deeply. Zillah bowed in thanks, letting raindrops bless her hair. Tubal turned, meeting Naema's eyes, her doubts gone. The climax passed, but the resolution wasn't just the rain. It was a testament. When faith is tested to its limits, love, mercy, and resolve work miracles. The ark endured not only by its timbers, but by the hearts trusting in the Most High. On the flooded shore, the fearful crowd's shadows faded like mist. They had witnessed what they couldn't explain. Faith's power. The lesson was no longer temple sermons, but a sturdy bridge carrying them through wrath. When the waters receded, the ark gently rested far below Ararat's slopes. A rainbow appeared, a sign of a sacred covenant. Naema and her daughters-in-law stepped onto the deck, gazing at the radiant ark. No one spoke much. Their ordeal said enough. The storm's resolution wasn't the rain, but hearts steadfast through fiery trials. They prove that unshaken faith opens a path through storms or floods, under God's protecting hand. The water slowly receded, as if the gentle hand of the Most High parted the veil of past wrath. Ripples lapped at the ark's sides, leaving faint streaks on its weathered wood, oars of a battle between faith and indifference. The sky opened wide, bluer than ever, with soft white clouds drifting lazily, carrying the warmth of the first sunlight after the storm. The scene was no longer a chaos of wind and rain, but a serene symphony of nature awakening, revealing a fresh, tranquil world. Atop Ararat, amid the boundless expanse of grasslands and endless horizons, the colossal ark stood as an immortal emblem of steadfastness. Under the tender sun, a rainbow appeared, not merely a spectrum of colors, but a sacred covenant between God and humanity. Red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, and violet arced brilliantly, embracing hills and waters, etching itself into the souls of those fortunate to witness the moment. Noah and Naema stood side by side, hands clasped, eyes fixed on the rainbow's base. He, the man who built the ark while the world mocked, now saw the spirit of unshakable faith. She, the quiet woman who prayed nightly and kept the family's fire burning, knew her sacrifices were not in vain. No words were needed. Their shared glance spoke of being preserved through the world's fury. The three daughters-in-law, Ada, Zillah, Tubal, once gripped by doubt and fear, now stood as pillars for a new generation. Ada, her calloused hands still strong from days of hammering and shaping wood, smiled radiantly as animals grazed on fresh grass. She knew that without the courage to leave her blood family, she wouldn't stand here today, witnessing the Almighty's miracle. Zillah, with her calm soul and tender heart, comforted each orphan child. Her hands wrung a rain-soaked cloth, wiping drops from young cheeks. Now the children's laughter echoed across the deck, mingling with the wind rustling the sails, crafting a symphony of hope. Zillah felt like a second mother to these little angels, knowing love had healed their wounds. Tubal, the youngest, her eyes once shadowed by doubt, now shone with firm faith. She recalled moments of hesitation, torn between Barak's promise of safety and Faith's call. In those lost moments, she found hidden strength, trust without calculation. As the morning mist cleared, Tubal felt clearly that faith, when tested, only grows stronger. The children, seeing the rainbow for the first time, pointed excitedly, chattering about its magical colors. One small child tugged at Zilla's sleeve, asking, "Will the rainbow take us to a new place?" Zilla smiled, brushing the child's dew-damp hair, and said, "The rainbow is God's promise that whenever we rise after a storm, He won't abandon us." Her simple, profound words planted hope in young hearts. By the ark's side, Shem, Ham, and Japheth inspected the timbers, checking each plank. Though their faces were still smudged with soot and sweat, their eyes gleamed with pride. They knew this work wasn't just physical labor, but a living testament to faith's power. As younger siblings leaned over the rails, seeing the calm waters below, they cheered, "A new world welcomes us." In that moment, Naima turned to the audience, those watching this story unfold on screen, as if to say, to anyone facing life's storms, remember, after rain, the sky clears. After doubt, faith lights the way. She spoke little, her eyes and smile conveyed her heart. The end wasn't merely nature's calm, but the dawn of a new chapter. The Ark, no longer just a refuge, was a shared home for redeemed souls. They reflected on their arduous path, from water-soaked dreams in the dead of night, to faint light-piercing smoke, to the rain of justice washing away hatred. Each step, each drop of sweat, each whispered prayer affirmed, even a small faith can alter destinies. In today's world, where uncertainty, anxiety, and fear encircle us, Naama and Noah's family shine as a beacon. We may not build arks in deserts, but we all face personal floods, loss, failure, doubt, pain. Will we endure silently or act with steadfast faith? The answer lies in each heart. Naima's journey teaches that faith isn't always a blazing miracle. It can appear in the first raindrops, a gentle rainbow, a child's laughter, or the resolute eyes of those who refuse to yield. As this story closes, I ask you, what lesson do you draw from Naama's faith? Where in the U.S. are you watching this? Share your thoughts in the comments below so our community can spread hope and faith together. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the bell, and never miss untold stories of biblical heroines and the world around us. Each week we'll explore wondrous twists where faith and action intertwine, creating miracles. May God bless you and your family. See you in the next video as we uncover more spiritual mysteries and find strength in our own hearts.